In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Marianne's guests are leaders in their field, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in their own work. They teach others to develop, refocus, and grow. Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. And remember, make every moment count.
Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I am so excited to be sharing with you today a very dear friend of mine, very special guest, amy-slater. And she is an amazing woman. She is a UC Berkeley graduate, Senior VP of a leading technology company, and a highly sought-after keynote speaker. In fact, she was just, in San Francisco speaking alongside Jay Leno, and she is known as the mentor to mentors. So really want to pay attention here today and all the good things we have to say. And on top of all that, she is the parent, of three lovely girls. So Amy has written a book, and it's called Moments, Magic, Miracles, and Martinis, How to Move Forward in Times of Uncertainty. My gosh, can't we all use that? So welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. It's such a joy just to spend time with you, and especially I'm so excited about your new book. And man, is it a game changer?
Thanks. I'm very excited. I get chills thinking about it myself.
Well, I know you to be this highly successful, awesome person that it seemed like the world kind of threw everything at you at once, and here you are, you just handled it and dealt with it with pretty much the same techniques and tools that you use to be so successful in business.
I think, having been in business, as you mentioned, for over 25 years in sales and sales leadership, every day in sales is a new day. You pretty much start at zero every day, kind of the what have you done for me lately syndrome when you're in sales. And, you think you have it all figured out, and then you get hit with a lot of change in your own personal life, and you try to hold it together, and sometimes it's not so easy. And I figured I would share my learnings with a broader audience.
Well, I know every person that picks up your book becomes an immediate fan, and the first thing that they're doing is they're purchasing your book and giving it to friends or family members. And so it's really something that's actually flying off the shelves. And what's kind of funny is your book just got released today.
Yes, it did. I'm very excited.
So congratulations on your new release. I mean, I've heard it's hit #1 bestseller. It's #1 in all these different categories. So that's a huge accomplishment.
Thank you. I think with the topics in the book covering a real broad range of things that throw you curveballs, whether it be related to health, to marriage, to parenting, to working, whatever it is, I believe that I've shared a lot of experiences that everybody can relate to. I don't think there's a single person that can say they haven't faced some degree of uncertainty, and it was very therapeutic for me to write the stories about my own journey.
So, and I agree with you. I mean, going through your book, it's really heart-wrenching, and a lot of people can really relate. So I know your personal story. I know that you went through a lot of different challenges, and it basically everything hit at the same time. And gosh, doesn't it feel like that when we get hit with stuff?
Yeah. I mean, when it rains, it pours. I mean, there's so many cliches or analogies. Kick a person when they're down. When it rains, it pours. And it's very easy to get into that victim mentality. Why me? Next thing I know, I turn around and I get smacked down again. And it's very easy to go into that abyss. And I'm so grateful that I was inspired by some thought leaders around being positive, around vulnerability, and just taking it as it comes and taking one day at a time. And just by being present in the moment, hence the title, really helps you overcome that fear of uncertainty.
Well, and I know that it really was your positive mindset that really propelled you forward. What prompted you to start looking at things that way, or was that always a mindset you had?
I have to say that I think I have an innate sense of positivity. I have my father was always the kind of person, and I write about this in the book, that it wasn't that the glass was half full, it was overflowing. And so he just was this gift of life. And even today, as he sits in his wheelchair in a nursing facility, you see that twinkle in his eye. And so I think I had that innate sense. But then I went to, while I was going through my divorce and I was really on the verge of being in a pretty dark place, I attended an offsite for work and went to hear this mental toughness coach speak, Chris Doris, and he talked all about not complaining and challenged everybody in the room to go 24 hours without complaining. And I said, what the heck? I have nothing to lose here. I'm going to take on this challenge. And so I went for 24 hours without complaining, and it was jaw-dropping, the kind of magic that I saw just in that 24-hour period, just by stopping that propensity to complain. And I basically couldn't stop.
Well, and it's contagious when you do that. So I understand, and I know you to be a very go-getter, just kind of positive, upbeat kind of person, and I can see where that's kind of in your DNA, So,
it's hard to complain most of the time. I mean, certainly go down that path, but it's hard for people to complain around me, and they always apologize. I'm sorry that I'm complaining. So you don't have to apologize to me. Just think about putting another twist. I'd at least open people's eyes to not just go down that path. That's not the first choice you have to make. You don't have to go down the bad path. You can start on a positive way and just take a different vantage point.
Well, and I understand with, I know how the people that you work with, because, you have a lot of people that report to you and what have you, you probably, and that you come in contact with, that positive outlook, of course they're saying, hey, I'm so sorry, because it's really coming across to them, that, gosh, she is really upbeat and positive, and I even know that that's that way with your children.
Yes, it's very much the case. A couple of recent experiences with my kids, I write about a few of the experiences about them turning things around and becoming positive. It's really amazing when you start seeing it organically in your children. I have an 11-year-old daughter, and in California, and as in many other states, they have to do these physical fitness tests, these statewide tests, and she just doesn't love to run. And she had to do the mile run, and the morning of her run, have to have a good breakfast, and she asked me for a black marker. I said, okay, have a black marker. So she takes the black marker, she draws on her arm, which I hate, but she did anyways, and she wrote, #you can do it. And just to think that I didn't tell her to do that she's just soaking that up. And when she came home that day, she had cut 1.5 minutes off of her time, of her mile. And she was so proud, but that she was there and she was promoting her own sense of self-worth, that she could do it. And those are the things that are the miracles that come as a result of living a more positive life. I also have a daughter who's a sophomore in college in Vermont. And, being a teenager is not the easiest road. And wasn't always, as a teenager, a real proponent of my kumbaya kind of attitude. And one day she, on social media, she had there was a poem that talked about, be positive and the world around you will be positive too. And she mentioned me in some post, basically saying, thanks, Mom. And so that you just start to see that positive influence budding around you, and in my children in particular, it's a really great feeling.
Mm. Now, were you always, before all, we'll get into it in just a minute, some of the different things that kind of hit you all at the same time, but were you always very positive as far as your mindset before all these things hit you?
I would say not. I would say I wasn't negative, but I didn't lead with positivity. I don't think I was present. I think I was so buried in my own head and my own personal challenges. I was certainly holding up a facade of strength, but I think it was hard. I think I was hard on the outside and thinking that I was just living, showing the world this perfect person. But I don't think I was present. I wasn't as accepting of people and of my children. I think I just rushed through every day to get through the day. And when I sort of came to the other side of this amazing journey that I'm on, it created just a whole different energy.
Mm-hmm. So, getting to all these things that hit you at the same time, I know that, and they'll have to buy the book to get all the ins and outs, which is definitely worth it because it's a short read and easy to pick up and get that inspiration that you need no matter where you are in life, no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's like you hit every area pretty much, which is not a good thing, but going through this and coming out the other side really does bring a lot of hope and inspiration for other people. So you had, basically you went through a divorce, that ended a 17-year marriage, and now you're co-parenting with your, soon-to-be ex. Your father's has a diagnosis that you're having to deal with. You have chronic IBS, which I really applaud you for writing about it in this book because it's a very honest and kind of raw talk about that in some respects that a lot of people can relate to, having some type of illness or something that comes up that you've got to deal with. And on top of all that, it wasn't enough, then you were just in the position where you had started a new job. So that comes with all this other stresses and everything else.
Right. Yeah. There's a hierarchy of things that they say are the most stressful events. I think I hit just about all of them with the exception
you
of
had the medical, the job, the home life. It probably felt like there was no place to turn.
Yeah. Yeah, basically, I essentially became a shell of a person during that time. Of course, the IBS was debilitating, but every day you've got to wake up and take on the world, even though you're incredibly weak. And there are people that don't even recognize me today that kind of came into my life 5 years ago. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you're a different person."
Mhm. Well, and that's a really tough thing to go through because a lot of times people don't understand IBS. And, how that really affects people. But, it comes, it's debilitating in some ways,
Oh, yeah. And you carry a lot of shame. That's why I talk about it. And in fact, a colleague of mine the other day said, "Wow, it sure took a lot of courage for you to write this book." And I said, "Now we're really going to get to know you." I said, "Great. I have nothing to hide." But when you're talking about something like IBS, it's really not nice table conversation. However, I've realized that by coming out with it, and as I talk about in my book, shining light on a dark place, it's amazing how many people said, "Oh, my child has that," or "I have that. What have you done?" And I've referred a lot of people to the nutritionist that I leverage to feel better. And if I can help one person be in a better place and prevent them from living what I lived with, I've had it for over 30 years. And it gets, it rages in difficult times in life. If I could help one person, then I feel like I've helped out.
Well, and I think, pulling the shades back on that really allows people to look at it. Hey, is that something that I have? The symptoms sound familiar. Maybe I need to get this checked out because a lot of people walk around with that undiagnosed.
Oh yeah. I have friends that are sending me emails saying, "I have this friend who has what you have. Can I connect you to them? Because they have no idea where to turn." And so it just becomes this natural thing. And so people then start reaching out and building a community. It's roughly 1 in 7 people that suffer from IBS.
Oh my goodness, yeah. So going through that, and then your dad had some stuff going on too.
Yeah. So as we all age and live longer, there's always a big bucket of what people call dementia or Alzheimer's. And then, so my dad went through that about 7 years ago, just issues around memory, and he got diagnosed, as they thought, with Alzheimer's. And as time went on, he started to get different symptoms that were more of a physical nature, not just a mental nature. And he was ultimately, after 3 years, diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, which is what Robin Williams was diagnosed with just prior to his death. And so because Robin Williams is a celebrity, the light has been shined on that nuance of the disease, which has typically just been viewed as Alzheimer's. I've recently joined a public advocacy group here in the Bay Area for Alzheimer's, and the number of stories I've heard about people whose loved ones have come with similar diagnoses where they go years and years not knowing exactly what it is that they're suffering from. But then to watch your parent who's been just a pillar of strength and inspiration in your life, to then see that he is, for all intents and purposes, he's gone, but he's physically there, and you see the twinkle in his eye, but he can't put 2 words together. And then to watch your mom, who's been with your dad for 60 years, and see her watch him suffer, it's you had to find a way to find some magic out of that.
Well, and it definitely does take a courageous shift. And because it would be so easy with all those things going on for someone to get, stuck in the mire and saying, no, life is so bad and doing that. But that's not what you did. And that's why your daughters are really shining, a great shining example of the profound change you have. And it's, I'm going to be excited to see them grow up and see how that impacts their lives, because it's going to be just, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing more from them. They're doing really, really well. They're an inspiration every day to me when I see what they do.
Definitely. Now, you talk about being authentic during this process, and I guess when you're going through something like this, it really tears you down to the point that's the choice is either to be in denial or to be just raw and authentic, because that's kind of what you're left with,
Yeah, I just realized that, I've spent my entire life really, even as a child, trying to be perfect. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting trying to mask it and think that if you're not perfect, you're weak. And I have a huge aversion to that. And striving for perfection prevents you from learning in so many ways. And I have to say, I feel like, authenticity has really become a huge topic, and certainly can often be an overused word, but it's just so important to just be who you are, and then just great things come towards you. And even if the being authentic means that some people might not like you, or they might think differently, then you don't need them in your life. And but I found just the opposite, that the more authentic I was, the more people were drawn into my life, really good people I might not ever have made room for if I had that big wall of perfection preventing me from engaging with a whole different world of people.
I think a lot of people grow up with that. That's like a common thing, because I know I had that going on when I was younger. Basically it had to be where if I didn't do things perfectly, like how you were saying, we showed up weak or incompetent or not good enough. And so it fed into all these underlying stories, which are so negative and ultimately tear us down regardless how perfect we try to show up.
Yeah, and I think it's especially prevalent among women, because you're trying to keep up, and impress your parents, your mom, your dad. And certainly it's not to say that men don't also have that challenge, but as a woman who then grows and wants to have a career and be in business and live in many industries that are male dominated, you feel like you have to be perfect because you have a little extra, you feel like you have a disadvantage. And, I was in a meeting for the last 3 days with senior leaders in my company, and I was the only woman and in this position in that room. And we were doing some different personality assessments that you do, or behavioral assessments that you do, all those different things, DISC or Myers-Briggs. And I was, not only a minority in being a woman, my type, if you will, in this assessment was, there was only one other person that was like me in that room in terms of my leadership style. The rest were all in the same category, in the dominant category. So I
you had Gandhi in the room?
I said, essentially, I guess I'm the minority in the room, and I don't mean my gender. It was more my style and my leadership style. It was quite funny. But anyhow, I think as women, we really strive that I think 5 or 6 years ago, I would have been embarrassed that I was different. Instead, now I sat there and said, this is awesome. I said, well, you guys, I'll charge you if you want to learn something different from me, because you guys are all the same. I'm different, and I felt proud of it. But, in my younger I would have been ashamed.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. I get that 100%. I mean, because when I was working in sales and was a top sales manager, you had to conform, It was, even though you would have to think outside the box as a manager in your management style, they would expect you to conform to some degree. So. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in the way we dressed, right? Even in the way you dressed in the 80s and 90s, right? How many women were wearing pantsuits and these, shirts with ties and up to their, chin so that they weren't feminine. And so we were raised in our generation. Oh, yeah, exactly. And we were raised to downplay our feminine side. And I have to say, I've spent the last 5 years trying to raise up that feminine energy because it's incredibly masculine and can be threatening to other people. And so I've had to soften that. And so I think that has all come with this sort of authentic, get down to your core, really, of who you are.
Well, and I know years ago they did a study, men and women in sales who did better. And typically, the polls came out that it was basically women that did very well because they were non-threatening when you would sit and talk with them. So, why would we want to move that out of who it is that we are? You know what I mean? Because, it's just part of, our being, and it works for us as women being, being able to show up and be authentic.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and that's with the authenticity part, that is a really big deal. And then I know once you're there, you talked about moving to places where basically you could be the change in your environment. So how would somebody do that?
Yeah. So I think so often we look to the rest of the world, our friends, our family. We look to them to change because, well, how could it be me? How could it be me? If only they were this way, I could be this way. And that was not working. That wasn't working for me. And what I realized is that I had to look inside. And as soon as I opened up and changed my perspective, and a lot of it came from slowing down and being present, then I got what the world wanted from me. I just talk about my book in the chapter, Be the Change. I talk about how I really wasn't present for my mom in the way that she needed me to be around her grief over my dad, who was essentially dying every day before her. And I tried to rush her through her grief because I was uncomfortable. And I say, yes, be grateful, Mom. Be grateful. You've had all these years with him. Be grateful. And at one point she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, you're not listening to me. And I just need to tell you how sad I am. And of course, myself at that point was feeling kind of defensive. What do you mean? I'm here. And then I felt pretty bad. And the next visit, when I came to see her and we were sitting and she was sharing, I just listened. I didn't try to solve her problem. I just listened. And then she was sharing happy things about my dad. And we shared stories. And we sat up from the couch, and she said, thank you so much. She said, I never knew that I could feel this good again. And I thought, oh, gosh, what was different? And it's because I was present and I listened to her. And then as a result, she felt bad. That I think so many of us, when we're in times of uncertainty, grief in particular, we're so uncomfortable with grieving that we want to just brush it aside. And I have a very close friend whose husband recently died. And, I ask her questions about it all the time because the easier side would be to try to avoid it. But instead, we talk about it and give her space to grief and to have grief. And so I think if we can change the way that we respond to uncertainty, it's better for everybody.
I agree with that, and you're so dead on with all of that. And it really, being present is such a big deal because people know if I used to have a friend I would meet for lunch, and she would take her iPhone and stick it underneath the table, and she'd be looking at it while we're having lunch. And I'm like, what are you doing? Really? That's not even hiding. I can totally see what you're doing,
Oh, yeah. So, I used to be, when the days of the BlackBerry, it was locked in. I'd go to lunch and it would sit right beside me. And, people would say, I don't know, when Amy goes on vacation, she'd probably sacrifice food, water, maybe even shelter as long as she had her BlackBerry. And that's not good. Who wants to have that as what people say? Instead, I go places now and I turn off my phone. I have a work phone and I have a personal phone so that I can separate that. I keep my phone for emergencies for my children that they can reach me, but other than that, I try to put it aside. I'm not perfect at it, so I know anybody listening who knows me, they go, I've seen you on your phone. Okay, I have, but I am not the same as it used to be.
Oh, they're probably asking themselves, do I have the work number or do I have the personal number?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Where am I on the list?
Yeah, where am I on the list? Am I in the top 10 or am I, nope, didn't make the list. But, and that's important. That's so important because you can't fake authenticity and you can't fake being present, and that really, like how you were there for your mom and being able to just listen to her. And, it really helped her through her process, and I'm sure it's continuing to help her through her process, because that's got to be just a journey. There's not an end to it.
Yeah, and the poor thing, she'll call me and she'll be in a sad place. She says, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't be complaining, because she feels bad because she knows that I'm positive. So, Mom, if anyone has the right to have some complaining, I said, you're sad. It's okay. Talk to me. But she feels apologetic because she doesn't feel good about it, but she doesn't have any outlet.
She doesn't want to be in that space, but she needs to get it out. And she just wants somebody to hear her.
Exactly. And that's what I tell her. I said, Mom, it's not complaining. You're telling me the story of your life. And then that gives her the relief to know that it's okay.
We're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been talking with amy-slater, best-selling author of Moments, Magic, Miracles, and Martinis. We'll be right back.
In 2012, after returning home from Iraq and Afghanistan, Sean Gobin hiked over 2,000 miles of the Appalachian Trail. Recognizing the therapeutic effects of long-distance hiking, Sean founded Warrior Expeditions, a veteran nonprofit therapy program that supports veterans transitioning from their military service by hiking America's national scenic trails. Equipment and supplies are provided as well as assistance with job placement. For more info or to help support these veterans, visit warriorexpeditions.org.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
Have you ever had the sense that your thoughts might actually be doing something? Ancient secrets of manifesting have been masterfully revealed in the award-winning book Manifesting 1-2-3 by Ken Elliott. For the first time, the author's experiences and stories in this book describe exactly how your thoughts can create anything. You've been doing this all your life, but it's never been fully explained for you until now. Visit manifesting123.com for more information today. Manifesting123.com.
Are you an author looking for publicity for your book? If you're self-published or have worked through a traditional publisher, Marianne-Pestana can help you get the media attention you require. Contact Marianne-Pestana, literary publicist and host of Moments with Marianne, to create a winning plan of action. Marianne has helped authors become bestsellers and has received highly acclaimed media attention for her clients. Some of her work has received attention from ABC, NBC, CNN, CBS, Fox, and PBS, in addition to print and radio. She's a specialist in utilizing social media and her list of exclusive contacts to further the reach of your work. Contact marianne-pestana.com to discuss the future of your work today.
During times of uncertainty, challenges, and change, how do we find a ray of hope to move forward? In Amy Van-Atta-Slater's best-selling book, Moments, Magic, Miracles, and Martinis, she offers a torch of inspiration, motivation, mindfulness, and authenticity that illuminates even the most desperate of situations with possibility. Order your copy today to see what the buzz is all about at www.amy-slater.com.
Ben Wexler is a gifted leadership development and strategy consultant for professionals who want to transform their organizations and careers. Through a uniquely personalized set of processes, participants discover their unique knowledge, how to leverage that knowledge and experience, and then put it all together with a global strategy. You're more valuable, your organization is more valuable, and the change is viral. Contact Ben at 630-881-1074, 630-881-1074.
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We are here with best-selling author Amy Van-Atta-Slater. We've been talking to her about her book, Moments, Magic, Miracles, and Martinis. And you can visit her website at www.amy-slater.com. Now, before we left for break, you really had me thinking about a few things, Amy.
All these things happening at the same time are really the catalysts that made you become who it is that you are now. And in doing that, then you can be more present for your mother and being that role model for your children and your coworkers and all those that you come in contact to a greater degree. Not that you weren't before, because people came to you for all sorts of things before, but as far as in a greater degree they were able to come to you, and you're just in a totally different space.
Yeah, I think when you break down those walls, and I write about that, tearing down those walls, you just become more approachable. And I know that while people did come to me, I think I had a tendency to seem unapproachable. And my world has changed so much in letting that down. And when you have those walls, you really block a lot of emotional intimacy. And I used to get, accused. Even my ex-husband would say, you have issues with intimacy. And I was so defensive. I'm emotional. Being emotional and having emotional intimacy are two different things. And he was, as I reflect from a healthier space, he was spot on, because I was too afraid. I was too afraid for somebody to see me in any kind of a weakened state. And that's really what I hope to be an inspiration for people, that you don't have to be the tough guy. And we learn so much more. And Brené Brown, talks about things being messy in the middle. Get messy, get dirty, get knocked down a few times, because then you stand up and, okay, now I know not to do that because I'm going to fall down, and you learn from it. And so I've really, been sort of educating myself from some pretty inspirational thought leaders around things like being authentic, being vulnerable, and just being open to new possibilities.
Oh, it really shows. It really shows, because from what you've written in this book, I mean, people pick up this book, they start crying, they buy it for everyone they know. I mean, you're touching lives with it. You really are. And I think it's because a lot of women, and even men that read this as well, but, I'm thinking of myself and the women that I know, as a type A personality who, is a recovering perfectionist, all those kind of things. Women are we weren't really given a guidebook on how to be in the business world. We had to show up tough. And in doing that, we really lost something. And that's where I think a lot of that disconnect that you were talking about, how your husband was saying, well, you've kind of got this barrier. I think that's where a lot of that disconnect comes from, is, because we weren't really given like, hey, it's okay to be feminine and still be open and be present. And I think there's also, things have kind of come to a shift as well. But in business, I mean, it was kind of like a dog-eat-dog kind of world. And if you show any, softness, you'll get gobbled up. And I think
or you'll lose, right? You've got fear of losing. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Especially in sales, where it's so competitive.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, when I was working sales, I used to joke around. It's like every one human year in sales was like dog years,
Oh, yeah.
You'd have the 7 dog years. Now, I know also in your book you talk about gratitude. So how important is gratitude through your process? How important is it through your day?
Yeah, gratitude to me is, I say choose gratitude. It's a choice that we make. And I started to replace the words thank you with I'm grateful, because thank you is so easy to say. Well, and some people don't even say it, but when people do, it's like, thank you, thank you. Someone hands you something, thank you. But I started changing my language at work or in my personal life, where somebody does something, said, thank you so much, I'm so grateful to you. Because gratitude is something that's personal, and it says to the other person, I value you, or I value what you've done. And I feel that people, we're not entitled. We live in this society, and I see it very much with children and things, and places where we live, that there's this sense of entitlement that goes along with living. And you don't get much with entitlement. And I want to turn that around and say, no, I'm grateful for this minute, this moment. I'm grateful because, you took the extra time to do something that was helpful for me. And I think in such a competitive place that we live in, and people of all different walks of life, gratitude is something that cuts across gender, it cuts across socioeconomic status and all of that gratitude is that balance. And it's that should be that neutral state that people can share and understand one another, as opposed to, like you described, sort of this dog-eat-dog world, that gratitude. And if you show up each day grateful, you're probably going to go to sleep much happier than you would if you didn't choose gratitude.
Now, have you seen a dramatic shift in your work environment? And we'll get to your home in a minute, but in your work environment with making these changes in language like you have?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see, people will walk into my office and, they're not used to being treated that way. I've had people that have been pretty unhappy, with something that they've done or, that they've done some way that they've been treated. And if you just change that language, they come back and say, you have no idea how much I appreciate that. And it's just so great for the work environment, especially as you have so many different generations of people now working together. And, certainly with younger people in particular, they want to be acknowledged and feel that they're adding value. And I think it's so critical in the workplace because it's really easy, especially with technology today, to just be hiding behind emails. But people, so if you are going to be in an email kind of communication world, using words like I'm grateful to you for even coming to work today, knowing that you have a sick child at home. I'm really grateful that you worked this weekend to get these things done. And it creates really, I think, better bonds in the workplace when you can lead with things like gratitude.
Well, and in your personal life, using gratitude in the way that you are, what kind of changes have you seen?
I've seen certainly across friends when you lead with gratitude, there's just there's a deeper connection with your friends when you come from a place of gratitude. Someone does something for you. Again, I just have just taken that word thank you out because it's a very passive word, I think. And using grateful. I use grateful in the way that I communicate now with my ex-husband. I'm grateful that you helped me out in this situation or that situation. And it diffuses any angst that people have when you actually stop and say more than thank you. And I see it with my children and my youngest daughter all the time. She's picking out quotes for her screensaver on her iPod, and they have to do with being grateful. And so it just takes a lot of the negative energy. I think gratitude goes along with being positive. If you're grateful, it makes it a lot easier to create an environment of positivity.
Now, I know in your book you've got magic, so isn't that great? And we talked a little bit about that earlier about, the middle is messy, Brene Brown, her quote there. So how can someone find magic in their day? And you, of course, would know this, with all this turmoil going on, where can we find magic?
Yeah, the magic where I have found the magic, really the two things that are key in finding the magic, you've got to slow down. Because think about just simple things just even in nature, right? You're rushing by. Do you actually hear the birds chirping? Do you actually see a beautiful flower? Do you actually see anything when you're moving so fast? It's almost like you have impaired vision and your senses, your ability to have all of your senses charged up. If you're going too fast, you think about it. If you're going too fast, you can't hear very well. You don't see very well, and you just rush through life. And so by slowing down, you create so many more opportunities for magic to happen. And then if you're also in a positive state of mind, then when you slow down, the good things just rise above. And so you get this, energetic vibration that's much higher. And so the good things are drawn to you. And I have said before that, if you see clouds, look for the silver lining. There's little magical things tucked under here or tucked under there when you just slow down. And like I said, I see it in the workplace. I see it in my personal life. When you slow down, you might make a new friend if you're not rushing by. I've had conversations with a good friend of mine, and I write about her in my book. And we were having a table conversation over dinner, and she said, oh, my gosh, I stayed at the car repair place instead of taking a loaner car and going and doing my errands, and I slowed down. And this is before I'd even finally written the book. She said, I slowed down, and I had conversations with these people I never would have. Mm. So you don't even know. You don't even know the infinite magic that's there if you just take a break.
Well, and I think that's such great advice and a great outlook. Across my journey, I come across people all the time, and sometimes I'm, helping them with advice or information, and sometimes they're helping me. So we never know who's going to be there to, give us a hand up or give us a little encouragement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So the slowing down is just, that's been a huge learning for me, because when I was just out of college and I had a roommate, and she used to say to me, I'd come home, she goes, I just have this vision of you. You're always on the edge of the couch, like ready to do the next thing. She's like, sit back into the couch and stay a while. Because I was always rushing from one thing to the next. And I was 25. I was 25 years old. I was already rushing through life. And so I think, I want young people to read the book and be inspired. It's not a rush. It's not a race. There's no finish line. The finish line is death. All right. And there's maybe something on the other side, but what are we racing for? And that's, if I could, people have always asked, what would you tell your younger self? I tell my younger self, slow the heck down. Slow down. Because you're missing. There's so much that I know that I missed. I'm not going to, regret it, because here I am today, but it makes me think twice about slowing down and say, yeah, I'm going to slow down, because there are infinite possibilities in the moments in between, what I call the spaces in between.
Mm. And that's where a lot of those really impactful moments can happen. It's where, like you're saying, it's where the magic happens.
Exactly. And so that's where I've just set my sights there. And I catch myself going too fast or being overscheduled, and then I'll just start cleaning up my schedule and say, nope, I've got to cancel that, because I need that space. And the tendency when we're uncertain is often just to be really busy, especially when you go through divorce. You don't want to be alone, and you're afraid, so you overschedule and jam up your schedule. But then what good is that? Because then you're not really taking the time to listen to yourself and to learn.
Well, you're not present for anything when you do that. And you're right about that. A lot of times when people are going through really difficult times, I'm not saying it's not good to have a work ethic, but workaholic is a whole nother level. Because a lot of people will throw themselves into their work so that they can, just divert, avoid.
Yeah, you want to mask the pain, right? You don't want to hurt, so you do everything, and then it actually makes it worse. It might be a good temporary solution to distract yourself, but at the end of the day, the pain is still there. You haven't done anything with it other than mask it.
Yeah, and I think that the lesson would probably repeat itself then, because, how could it not? Because if we're not getting the lesson, it's going to show up in other ways. Exactly. That's fabulous. So from your book and your journey that you've taken through all of this, and a lot of us know that if we're unhappy and struggling and hitting one challenge after another, that the journey is always kind of continuing with that. I mean, it's life. Things show up, and we've got to do. What is like a tip that you would like to leave our listeners on? If they're just being hit with everything and the kitchen sink, what is the one thing that they can do right now to help them move through it?
I would say, first would be basically stop. Stop and slow down. And, I think sort of the first thing I did, and that I would continue to do, is let it out, right? cry, all that kind of stuff, and then say, okay, great. What's one thing I could do today to move forward? Because it just takes one step. The tendency is to feel like you have to have an entire plan and you have this end state in mind. But like you said, the journey is forever. But when you're faced with uncertainty, if you can do one thing, and if that means you wake up and have a cup of coffee, and that's the one thing that moves you one step closer, then do that. And be kind to yourself. And, you know, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about always do your best. Always do your best in the situation that you're in. You may be in a very sad place. Do your best even in that sad place. That will be different than your best when you're in your best place. But take one step. Take one step. If it means go take a walk for 10 minutes to clear your mind. If it means picking up the phone call to say hi to a friend that you haven't talked to in a while, do one thing. And then you do another. But it's taking one step and not to think of, oh my gosh, I have to do all of this today or within a week. Yeah. Take one step. And that would be my advice and my recommendation, which is in the book, is really you take one step forward. Because then you're moving, and then you're moving in the right direction.
Well, that's perfect. That's really some very strong advice that people can take with them and move forward. Because a lot of times when we're going through everything at the same time, I mean, I've been there, I've done that too. I mean, who hasn't? You know, it really feels that that being present and being able to slow down and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do next. At least that gives us a path that we can kind of follow on the way out.
Yeah, because the tendency is to get paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
You end up doing nothing. You're so overwhelmed with all of the fear and uncertainty, so you do nothing. So do one thing. And we're overwhelmed by the 150 things on our list that you have to do. But do one thing. Go play with your child. Roll around in the grass. Just be. But take a step. Because then one step turns to two turns to three, and then all of a sudden, then you're rolling. Because it's easy to just get paralyzed by the fear of uncertainty.
When you were going through this whole process and you were getting to the point where it's like, okay, I'm going to not be paralyzed by fear and I'm going to move through it, and you had all these things going on at the same time, was there one thing that you did or said that would kind of put those issues and those challenges to the back, either the back of your mind or just you're forgetting it for the day?
Usually, the way that I would get through it is, especially with something that I knew had a deadline, that something would be done or what have you, I would often just fool myself and I would say, you know what? I know that I get things done and I know that I can do this, and in 3 days, this will all be part of my past. So I'm just gonna show up because I know that I'll get it done. So I really sort of played these games of encouragement with myself that just said, you've done it before, you can do it again, and here you go. And because there, like you said, there is so much and there are so many things that you have to, we all compartmentalize things, but I would always, of course, choose the easiest things to get done first or to face first. But I just kept reminding myself that this too shall pass, and that if I just stay the course and I stay present, because what messes with ourselves the most, it's our mind. It's what we do with our minds. We think about the past, we think about the future, and then we have so much anxiety because we can't change the past, we can't predict the future, and then we mess up our present. So if you could just stay present in that moment in time, which is, again, where the title comes from, if you stay present in the moment, it's a much smaller thing you have to address. I can't change my dad's health situation. I can't change a lot of things about what might be, but what I have an impact and I can control is this moment in time.
That is so beautiful. And you know what? And of course, your book, Moments with Marianne, I mean, they just go together, you know.
I know. Well, that's how we met. I mean, that's the other thing that, you know, is slowing down. Is that, you know, we met through Twitter and did, you know, hashtag Moments. And then there you were. I thought, oh, that is just such a great connection. She's got something about moments too. And so by slowing down and being in that moment, look at this magic, right? You make these magical connections with new people. I have more new people in my life than I've ever dreamed of. And I don't mean just superficial connections. Mm-hmm. It's because I slowed down.
No, I get that. 100%. And I just love it. To me, it's delicious when I get to meet somebody new, and I mean, it just feeds my soul. You know, I love it.
No, I get I get giddy. I think you hear it in my voice. No, I get really giddy because of the kinds of connections that I've made in the past few years have just, and that's why I say magic and miracles. It's been a miraculous change, not because I'm like just so great or anything. It's slowing down, and it's being here in this moment.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Amy. I so appreciate you taking the time to be on the show with us today. Please tell our listeners where they can find you.
Absolutely. So the easy way to find me would be on my website, which is www.amy-slater.com. You also can find my book in Kindle and paperback version via Amazon, Amazon.com.
That was just released today. So paperback version,
just released.
Congratulations, just released, and a #1 bestseller already. So congratulations on that. And I know that your book was noted by some very high-level folks, you know, who also have some amazing souls. So we have Douglas Wick, who's an Oscar-winning, award-winning producer. And we've got there's just so many other people that have recommended your book. I don't think you have enough pages for them, actually.
Well, again, that comes with a lot of gratitude that people would take the time to share their experiences in reading my stories.
Oh, well, thank you again for being on the show today, and so appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Great. Thank you so much, Marianne.
Thank you. And for all of our listeners out there, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And remember, make every moment count.
Join us next time for Moments with Marianne, when host Marianne-Pestana brings another inspirational gifted leader to help us grow. Tune in every second Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Moments with Marianne, when the Dream Vision 7 radio network is at 1510 a.m. Boston. Or catch Moments with Marianne every Thursday and Friday at 5 p.m. and 5 a.m. Eastern Time by going to dreamvision7radio.com. To learn how Marianne started her business from the ground up, visit marianne-pestana.com. Don't miss this, and remember, make every moment count.